The Arctic. A place where the wind can flay skin, where the horizon stretches in infinite white, and where life itself is a daily miracle. But what happens when the end of the world follows you here, when the dead no longer rest beneath the snow, but walk across it, crunching through frost and silence? Could this frozen frontier be the ultimate sanctuary, or would it be the coldest, loneliest grave imaginable? Let's find out while trying not to freeze to death halfway through the thought. First, the good news. Zombies don't handle the cold very well. Their blood, if you can still call it that, turns sluggish when exposed to sub-zero temperatures. Their joints freeze, their movement stiffens, and eventually they stand immobile, preserved like grotesque sculptures in a natural freezer. The Arctic may not just slow the undead, might stop them entirely. Theoretically, a zombie outbreak here could be contained by nature itself. Picture it: a field of undead statues locked in eternal stillness, snow gathering gently on their lifeless shoulders. It's poetic, in a morbid kind of way. Temperature, then, becomes your greatest ally. At 40 degrees Celsius, the human body itself struggles to move fluidly. But the human mind, armed with proper gear and a few years of Arctic training, can adapt. Zombies, however, cannot. They don't put on thermal underwear or build igloos. The laws of decay are their worst enemy. And in the Arctic, decay freezes in its tracks. That means no rotting smell, no maggots, no flies, just frozen death. A quiet kind of apocalypse. But don't pop your frozen champagne just yet. The Arctic may freeze your enemies, but it can also freeze your hope. Everything that makes this place a natural barrier for zombies also makes it a brutal challenge for you. You can exactly raid the local grocery store in a land where there are no grocery stores. You'll need to find shelter, heat, food, water, and most importantly, sanity. The endless silence of white emptiness can break a person long before hunger does. Imagine your day-to-day life. The sun rises only for a few hours, sometimes not at all. You spend half the year in total darkness, listening to the sound of wind whistling through abandoned research stations. Every door creaks like it's haunted. Every breath freezes in front of your face. You ration your fuel, guard your canned food like treasure, and pray the next snowstorm doesn't bury your supplies. Even when there are no zombies around, survival feels like a full-time job. And let's not forget that even in this cold, the dead can surprise you. The Arctic doesn't sterilize them. It preserves them. Ever seen what happens when something frozen for decades thaws? Ancient viruses, bacteria, maybe even a zombie that got stuck mid-bite, waiting for spring to finish what it started. If climate change can melt permafrost and release prehistoric pathogens, what's stopping it from reviving a few frozen corpses with a hunger for human flesh? Congratulations, you've just moved to the world's biggest freezer, and someone left the door open. Still, the isolation is a blessing. The Arctic Circle isn't exactly a tourist hub. Fewer people mean fewer zombies in the first place. Outbreaks spread fastest in densely populated cities. Up here, the nearest neighbor could be 300 kilometers away. If the apocalypse begins in New York or Tokyo, by the time the infection even dreams of reaching the Arctic, the planet's already overrun. That gives you precious, life-saving time to prepare, fortify, and possibly outlast the chaos. Let's talk shelter. Your best bet. Decommissioned research station or a remote Arctic base. These places were built for extreme isolation, self-sufficiency, and cold resistance. Most are stocked with generators, labs, sleeping quarters, and thick insulated walls, perfect for keeping out both zombies and frostbite. Many even have emergency food supplies and radio equipment. Of course, you'll have to deal with the eerie vibe of living among dusty instruments and flickering fluorescent lights where the last human presence might have left years ago. But hey, at least you'll have company if you count the icicles hanging from the ceiling. Now, if you want to survive long-term, you'll need energy. The Arctic sun may be shy, but during its brief appearances, solar panels can still work. Combine that with wind turbines or leftover diesel generators, and you can have a modest off-grid power setup. But be careful, fuel freezes, batteries lose charge, and mechanical parts get brittle. The cold doesn't just kill. It corrodes your hope, one frozen wire at a time. As for food, hunting and fishing could keep you alive, but only if you're prepared. The Arctic isn't a buffet. Seals, fish, and the occasional caribou are rare prizes. You'll need to learn how to ice fish, build traps, and maybe even eat things you once swore you wouldn't. If you manage to catch something, cooking becomes another challenge. Firewood, almost non-existent. You'll be burning frozen driftwood, whale oil, or anything flammable you can scavenge. The smell of cooking meat, though, could attract unwanted attention, because even half-frozen zombies can still smell. Let's say one day, you're sitting by your meager fire, enjoying the quiet. The wind howls outside like a ghost choir. Then, a distant crunch footsteps. You grab your rifle and peer out into the white void. There's movement. A figure staggering in the snow, skin gray, eyes black and frozen solid. A zombie moving in slow motion, each step cracking like ice on a frozen lake. The cold doesn't stop, it just makes it eerie, deliberate, mechanical. You aim. The gunshot echoes for miles. The creature falls, face buried in snow. Silence returns. But now you wonder, was it alone? Or are there more, buried beneath the ice, waiting for the sound to wake them? That's the psychological warfare of the Arctic apocalypse. The loneliness gnaws at you. Every shadow looks alive. The landscape plays tricks on your eyes. You start naming the icicles outside your window just to have someone to talk to. And if you ever find another survivor, you'll probably hug them like they're family even if they haven't showered in 6 months. Companionship becomes your most valuable currency. Logistically, surviving here means becoming part scientist, part caveman. You'll need to understand how to melt snow without poisoning yourself with antifreeze runoff, how to build improvised insulation with old sleeping bags and duct tape, and how to tell if your frostbite is bad enough to need amputation. Your enemies aren't just zombies, they're wind chill, hypothermia, isolation, and despair. The undead are a problem you can shoot. The cold is a problem you have to outthank. And then there's the big philosophical question, if you survive, what are you surviving for? The Arctic is beautiful, yes, but it's also unforgiving. If the world below has burned and fallen silent, are you just prolonging the inevitable? When you stare into the white horizon and see nothing but snow and sky, it's easy to start thinking you've traded one kind of death for another, a colder, quieter version. Yet, humans are stubborn creatures. We've always found ways to thrive in impossible places. Maybe, just maybe, you'd build a new civilization, here small, isolated, but alive. Imagine that future. A handful of survivors living in domed habitats powered by wind, raising hydroponic crops under LED lights, communicating via shortwave radio with other Arctic outposts, a frozen network of human resilience. Zombies might roam the rest of the planet, but up here, humanity endures, wrapped in parkas and hope. So, is surviving in the Arctic during a zombie apocalypse good or bad? The answer, like most things in survival, depends on how long you can keep the fire burning both, literally and metaphorically. The Arctic is your best natural defense, but also your cruelest test. It will protect you from the undead, but it will challenge your humanity every single day. You won't be eaten alive, but you might slowly freeze into something unrecognizable, something as numb as the world around you. Still, if the alternative is being chewed on by a horde of decomposing maniacs in some decaying city, then maybe the Arctic lonely frozen merciless isn't such a bad deal after all. Up here, death moves slowly, and silence is your friend. The cold keeps secrets well, and if you're lucky, it might just keep you alive long enough to see the sun rise again over a world that's forgotten what warmth feels like. Because in the Arctic, survival isn't about fighting zombies. It's about fighting the freeze and remembering, against all odds. That your heart still beats warmer than the endless white around you.